Welcome back to On Iowa Live. We have the Prairie senior football players back there. They're going to join us in just a bit. We continue to talk Iowa football. The Hawkeyes open up with Illinois State from the Missouri Valley Conference. 6-5 last year. I believe you and I did beat them, but we all know from past experience that when you play a team in this conference, you have to be ready to play.
For sure. This is not one of those games that they take lightly. I'm sure we'll hear about it from Kirk talking about the 2009 game against Northern Iowa. And you don't want to. I mean, there's some quality players that Illinois State has. They had a winning record last year in the SEC of the FCS. So, but this is an opponent that you feel like is for Iowa that you should be able to dominate and really work on the things you need to work.
What did Hayden Fry used to say when you played an opponent that maybe wasn't as good as some of your other opponents?
Well, Coach Fry, I mean, he never underestimated any football team.
Yeah.
And we had teams like Cincinnati. We played Hawaii. We played some teams that we didn't think that we thought we could just dominate. And what I think that Iowa has to do going into a game like this is to not underestimate. You never know. This is a new offense. This is a new scheme. You're playing against someone other than your teammates, that you've been practicing against all summer and all spring. So I think Coach Fry probably would have been, he's fairly conservative. So he probably would have said, hey, don't underestimate these guys.
Yeah.
And I think Iowa, another thing I'll mention is that Iowa, has a history of being able just to kind of beat teams down. We may not see a lot of explosiveness right out of the gate, but I think over time, our conditioning, our physicality.
Especially with these two lines.
Yeah, two lines, I think will just wear teams down.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Iowa's schedule. And obviously it is a little tougher than last year, Scott.
A little bit.
Yeah.
The one thing that they've got is they got to go to Ohio State.
Yep.
That is the challenge, and it's the challenge for anybody.
October 5th, yes.
That's the big one. But the teams, their rivals, all but Minnesota, they play at home, so that's good. Teams like Washington, national championship
They're down
runner-up.
now, right? They
lost 21 out of 22 starters. They have a new coach. They hit the portal. They've got some talent, but they're not a team that you look at and go, wow, they just went to the national
title. So it could have been
game.
worse. You could have had Oregon. You could have had some teams that are ready to play right now.
Exactly. I mean, Michigan State, this is the Michigan State with turnover. They're not the Michigan State from a couple of years ago. But there are a lot of teams on their schedule, and I'll say this. I think Iowa State right now is the second best team on their schedule.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of teams on their schedule, Scott, that are capable of beating Iowa if Iowa doesn't play well.
Yeah, and I think, too, another component is that when we talk about the new teams that are coming into the conference, there's a speed element. You think about your Oregons, you think about your Washingtons, your UCLAs and USCs. That's a speed. Those teams are fast. And one of the things I think we're going to have to learn to adjust to is, can we keep up with the speed of some of these players? And I think that'll be, to me, what I'll be really interested in, and particularly with this defense, is can we keep up from a speed perspective?
Well, they've changed the defense over the years to do that with the Cash and the Leos, and they have more defensive backs on the field to give them more speed.
That's been a real change that has worked. It took Iowa from being a very good defense to an elite defense by adding that. And then you have somebody like Sebastian Castro playing that hybrid where he can run, he can go man, he can go zone, hits like a linebacker. He's been able to do that. And then in the future, they'll probably be more of a corner, like a third corner as opposed to.
So you don't have all these big linebackers on the field guard and little wide receivers now.
Right.
So I think that's an advantage.
And that's what happened in 2018 when they had Nick Neiman, who's really fast, but guarding a receiver and got beat. That's what prompted the change. So that will be very helpful. But last year's Washington group would have been really tough to guard.
You mentioned Iowa State that they have in the second game. This team is really good. Rocco Beck improved so much last year from the beginning of the year when Iowa played them to the end of the year.
Yeah, he had 3,100 yards. I mean, as a freshman, redshirt freshman, he was really a 65% completion percentage. Just a tremendous player and helped that program. You think back a year ago, Scott, when they had more issues with the gambling situation than Iowa did. They lost their quarterback, their running back, their left tackle, tight end, and yet they were able to pull through and persevere. We've talked a lot about Matt Campbell over the years. He proved what his mettle is, and now you look, and they have the most returning production out of any team in the country. 86% of their production returns, and you've got 2 elite-level wide receivers, a really good defense, one of the best young tight ends in the country in Ben Bramer. This is going to be a team that's not only going to challenge Iowa each and every play, but I would put them in the top 2 to 3 in the Big 12.
Yeah, they're really good at the skilled position. Jalen Noel and Jade Higgins, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
combined for 1,758 yards, 13 touchdowns last year. Those are 2 of the best wide receivers on the same team in America.
Absolutely, it is. And then you throw Bramer in there and Abu Sama in the backfield. Rocco Becht, who can really spin it to anywhere he wants on the field. This is a very, very good team. And this is one, again, I look at Iowa's schedule as of right now. They're the second best team on the schedule after Ohio State.
Yeah, and then you got T.J. Tampa, who's an NFL defensive back. I mean, so they're good on the back end too.
Yeah, they've got a lot of really good returning guys. I think Caleb Bacon in the middle. He's a salt of the earth guy. I love the name. Especially being in Ames, lended himself to some NIL opportunities.
Yeah, they're making some cash off that name.
Yeah, exactly.
Ham and bacon, right?
Yep.
And then you got UNI. They host Valpo in their first game. Good that they're not playing a Power 5 right away. So I think that will help them. They're at Nebraska coming up in the 3rd game of the season.
Yeah, that's going to be obviously a challenge for UNI. It always is, because they do play a lot of Big Ten teams. They've been to Wisconsin. They've been to Iowa several times, Iowa State, going to Nebraska for them. But, they do compete in those games. So I would expect them to put forth a good effort, but you can never predict a win when they go on the road on those teams.
And as you can see, UNI with some good, skilled wide receivers, again, coming back this year. When we come back, we're going to take some questions from the audience on Iowa Live.